Senator Sharon Keogan.
Thank you. I also want to be associated with the comments to Ambassador Correa's here this morning on Italian Day. So I want to call for a debate with Minister Roderick O'Gorman and Minister Darragh O'Brien about the results of the Red C poll published on Sunday in the Sunday Business Post last weekend. It's Thursday. Not one member in this House has actually discussed this issue this week. We need to do a better job at housing refugees and asylum seekers. It's the elephant in the room that no one in Leinster House bubble wants to talk about. 75% of people believe that Ireland is taking in too many refugees after the arrival of almost 100,000 people in the space of a year. Concern regarding asylum seekers in their area is highest among younger cohorts, lower social grades and among Sinn Féin supporters and independent voters. I'm sure this is something that many in this chamber are aware of. According to the RTE report by Michael Lennon, an FOI request revealed that up to 180,000 people could be seeking refuge here by the end of this year. So we need to come up with a better plan that takes into account the welfare of refugees and asylum seekers and everybody living in our country. We have an obligation to take in refugees. We have taken in more people per capita than France and Switzerland. If we're taking in people, we need to provide them with a decent standard of living, not virtue signalling and then having no plan as to what we're going to do. Building virtual ghettos in business parks filled with single men is not what anyone wants. Similarly, mothers living with their children in small hotel rooms is not what anyone wants either. This is all taking place as many young people are unable to access affordable accommodation or get on the property ladder. A survey by Grant Thornton earlier this year showed that 1 in 4 people are turning down jobs in Dublin due to accommodation concerns. What is unconscionable is that all of this is avoidable, but there is no political will to solve it. A lot of the accommodation owned by REITs, the Real Estate Investment Trust, are deliberately being left empty. Planning permissions for homes have been granted by councils nationwide, but they're not being built on, so as to artificially increase housing and rental prices. Properties that could be renovated are left to go derelict because the Fine Gael, Fianna Fáil and Green Party government prioritise wealthy business interests over people living here long term. Ultimately, this is about where we are now and where we're going in the future. I will conclude by asking you all to speak out about what you know is happening in our own communities when we have this debate. No doubt it will be your political downfall if you don't. Thank you.
Senator Keogan mentioned some aspects of the migration issue and the polling on Sunday. I don't have to tell Senator Keogan, as an experienced political operator, that you have to take some of this polling with a pinch of salt, if you like, or you have to take it in context, and often more probing questions are not asked. But yet, it does pose relevant points, as you say. Your basic point about information of the public, the Taoiseach is committed and has committed himself to try to improve that with Minister O'Gorman, how we can inform our people better and how we can speed up the provision of more accommodation and all of that. So those kind of practical responses that you suggest are important. And you are correct that it's an ongoing issue. Now, I do have to make the point, and you won't dispute this, I know, that every one of us in this House have a moral responsibility to show leadership in this area. I've been confronted with it a number of times at home myself, and I'm happy and proud to say that I did the right thing. And I know that Senator Keogan and everyone else here would do the same, but it should be done. There can be no ambiguity. We don't forget Ellis Island. We don't forget the coffin ships. We don't forget the no dogs, no Irish. We don't forget the history of immigration in this country, the way that we were social outcasts abroad, that we went off in disease, famine ships. That 1 million people died in the Irish famine, and subsequent to the Irish famine and around it, 1 million people were forced to emigrate. And that's a shocking statistic. And also we are all, some of us, or even aligned to the Christian Democratic Party, but whatever we're aligned to, we are Christians by and large, and we know what the Sermon on the Mount says, and we know what the doctrine of Christ says in these areas. So while all the points you make, Senator Keogan, are welcome and helpful in the sense of how we organise ourselves, how we provide more speedy accommodation, how we provide it quicker, how we inform our public, etc., we have a moral responsibility to be unambiguous in our welcome of the new people to this country, and that also to be very cognizant of the tragedy that brought them here, in whether it was the war in Syria, which is one of the horrors of contemporary times, or whether it was the illegal invasion of Ukraine and barbaric invasion of Ukraine. And no later than last night, I think 3 people were killed here in Kiev, and 2 of them children. Horror statistics. And our hearts can only go out to those people. We're very lucky in this country. We take so much for granted here that we have all sorts of peace here.